Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to help keep dogs out of shelters by educating and supporting their humans. We promote positive method of training and behavior modification through stress-free methods. As part of that mission, we offer free webinars like the one you're about to watch. Subjects range from dog behavior, stress-free training, and other tools to help you understand your relationship with your dog. If you like the webinar, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Click the notification bell and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified when future videos are posted. Now enjoy the webinar.
Welcome to today's webinar. It's something we hear questions about all the time, resource guarding. But first, let me introduce you to our speakers, Marnie Montgomery and Sarah Stoycos, who also teach our resource guarding class. Marnie Montgomery is founder and lead trainer of Joyful Dog, T-Touch, and Training, serving Loudoun and Western Fairfax counties in Virginia. Joyful Dog offers private T-Touch, manners training, and behavior modification. She is a CPDT-KA Level 4 Pat Miller certified trainer and certified Tellington T-Touch practitioner. Marnie teaches group classes online and in person through Your Dog's Friend in Rockville, Maryland. Sarah Stoycos is a Karen Pryor Academy certified training partner. She founded and trains through Laughing Dog Academy in Rockville, Maryland. She provides humane, force-free training and behavior modification in private lessons, as well as through a variety of classes at Your Dog's Friend. A few housekeeping details. Use chat for questions. We will try to get to as many as possible, and we will probably wait until the end unless there's something that's immediately relevant to what's being discussed. I also want to mention donations, my favorite topic. Our webinars depend on them. You can go to our homepage and see a donations icon in the top right corner, or go to our webinar schedule where you'll find a donation icon next to each listing. Our expenses have increased exponentially, and so has the need for what we do. So please think about donating during or after this webinar. I know that we will all learn a lot from what our speakers have to say today. Marnie, Sarah, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Deborah. So welcome to our resource guarding webinar, Help for the Dog Who Doesn't Share. I'm going to start by just looking at the question, what is resource guarding? We're assuming if you all are here, you have some idea what resource guarding is. Dogs who resource guard, they protect exclusive access to the things they value. We'll be looking throughout the course of this webinar at what some of those things are and how to work with that. Guarding behaviors include growling. That's often the first warning that our dog is guarding. And it's a behavior that we love because growling lets us know before things get more intense, before our dogs go to snapping and biting, lets us know that our dog is really uncomfortable with the situation. So we can make adjustments before mistakes are made, dog mistakes or human mistakes. Snapping, like that, biting, of course. Ingesting is like the king of the resource guarding behaviors. It's the ultimate way to guard. If I have eaten something, you can't have it. And we'll see it. See it a lot in certain breeds that tend to carry things in their mouths. Anyway, it often happens when our dog grabs a thing that we don't want them to have, and we rush in to get it. And as we do that, they're like, oh, no, you don't. And then they will ingest it. So we're going to look at alternatives rather than triggering our dogs to these guarding behaviors. And then carrying items away. It is what it sounds like. your dog may do this routinely. You give them something lovely, and rather than just enjoy it where you give it to them, they take it away to a place where they feel comfortable.
Okay. So what causes resource guarding? There are several things that usually come into play. One thing to understand is that resource guarding is a very natural behavior. If you think about what Marnie was saying about, having access to resources, things that they value, we all evolve. Animals evolve. The ones that stay in the gene pool are the ones who have resources. So it makes perfect sense, that you're going to want to hang on to the things that are yours. Not only, but, food is obviously a big one. Genetic predisposition. Whew, can't talk today. There are some dogs who really come out of the box guarding things. I wouldn't say it's absolutely common, but it certainly happens. And sometimes that gets triggered by experience. And this is the biggie, I think, for us to all understand, is that we can accidentally create a resource guarder. Some dogs, you'll do certain things and they won't turn into one. Some, if they've got that genetic predisposition, you're going to find that you can create it. And the way you do that, or don't want to do that, is when your dog grabs something that you don't want them to have, you want to avoid that urge to go rushing over and ripping it out of their mouths. And I can't tell you the number of times that people have said to me, "Oh, I could take anything from my dog's mouth." And oftentimes that's true for a while. And then, your dog finally says, "Hey, I'm really tired of people taking things away, and now I'm going to guard them." If you think about it, we would be the same way. So imagine yourself, Marnie and I were chatting about this. Imagine if you're sitting there with a plate of French fries, and every time this one person came by, that person would reach over and grab a couple of fries and eat them. And the first time it would probably be kind of funny. And the second and third time, you're like, "Oh, okay." And by the fourth or fifth time, I might really have had it. And I might start to say, "Don't touch my fries," as that person approaches, right? So experience can create guarding. The other thing along those lines, there's this I guess I'd call it a myth. I'm not sure what I'd call it. I'd call it bad training advice that's out there all over the place, which is when your dog has a bowl, a bowl of food, put your hand in there so they get used to it. Well, now, if you think about it from this point of view, from experience, what that's telling your dog is, someone comes up and they're going to put their hand in my bowl. So I may want to guard my bowl. So it's not a great technique, and it's in fact quite the opposite of what we want to do. We want our approaches to predict something good, and we'll be using that today. We'll be showing you how to use that in your work with your resource guarder. But don't follow that advice. And then general stress. There are dogs who are generally stressed, anxious. They, it can be any number of things causing it. And it will sometimes show itself as resource guarding. And sometimes when that general level of stress is reduced, actually some of the guarding may fade away. So, as we go through this webinar, we're going to be looking at ways to work with your dog. But keep in mind, too, that if there are other things that are stressful for your dog, reducing those will also really help. It may seem completely unrelated to guarding, but stress is stress. Okay. So evolution, genetic predisposition, experiences, general stress, and often these things are all intertwined in ways. So we want to be particularly careful about experiences, what we might be doing that contributes to their guarding behavior. Okay.
All right. So types of resource guarding. Dogs may guard treasures from people. They may guard them from other dogs. They may guard them from other cats. And there may be some combination of these things. That said, a dog who guards from other dogs won't necessarily guard from people, and vice versa. They may be, if you will, species specific in terms of who they guard from.
So what kinds of things do dogs guard? Objects. They could be toys. And sometimes it's, any toy. Sometimes it's like a new toy, something that's really exciting. And once the toy becomes old, they may not be as interested in guarding it. Stolen things. Boy, this is a big one. In our resource guarding class, this is like probably at the top of the list. Things that our dogs steal. So it could be someone's sock, or right now, the masks are big, right? Anything that they might steal. And it makes sense if you think about it, because what do we do when our dog steals something we don't want them to have? Whoa! And we go after them, right? So stolen things is really common. Empty food bowls. So not just, well, actually full food bowls too, but empty food bowls because of their association with food. And water bowls, believe it or not. We often see that.
Yeah. Our dogs can guard space. Some of the prime spaces they may guard are couches, their own beds, human beds, places where food has been. A lot of spaces derive their value for our dogs from things that happen there, either good things or perhaps even unpleasant things if they want to prevent that happening again. So we may not see the things that created the value in those spaces, but we want to be aware that these spaces can have value for our dogs. Specific rooms can be of value to our dogs. They may want to prevent access to that room, and yards, places that they perceive as their own.
So dogs can also guard people. It might be one family member from the other members of the family. And this is sometimes tied to maybe a specific location or activity. So for instance, a really common one is my dog is cuddling with me on my lap or next to me on the couch, and another family member comes up to talk to me or hand me something, and my dog decides to guard me. That's not unusual. It could also be fine with people in the house, but a stranger approaching that person could be an issue for a dog. And guarding from other dogs approaching their person. And that's not unusual either. It could be certain dogs, but generally, often it's like any dog coming towards my person, I'm going to keep you away, because in that case, the person, is the resource.
Yeah. So obviously, dogs guard food. Food can be a lot of things. Your dog's meal. Sarah already touched on why we don't reach our hands into bowls when our dogs are eating. Bowls that might contain, have contained food. A chew, a yummy chew like this handsome boxer has. Those can be really high value and can trigger guarding. Treats. If you're working with dogs together, be aware that treats can absolutely be a source of guarding. Things that we might not think are food, vomit, can actually be a shocking trigger for a guarding event between dogs. One dog throws up and a fight breaks out, and dead critters. I think most of us have experienced that. Those can be high value to our dogs.
Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about body language, because the more subtlety you see in your dog's body language when it comes to guarding, the better you're going to be at heading it off. So being able to see some of the early signs so that it doesn't progress to something worse is going to be really helpful to you. And so let me just run through these. We're gonna take a look at a video in a minute, but I just want to go through some of these signs of guarding that you'd want to be on the lookout for. All right, body stiffness. boy, body stiffness is always, with our dogs, is always a sign that there's something going on. There's some sort of stressor, and it definitely applies to guarding. Sudden stillness. Your dog maybe is chewing something and then stops moving. That's often a sign. A tight mouth. So maybe their mouth is relaxed and then zoop, closes as you start to approach them. Whale eye. This is a great photo here on the right of whale eye, where you see the whites of your dog's eyes. A furrowed brow, as long as your dog isn't too fuzzy, you can see when they furrow their brow, and boy, that's in that photo too, isn't it? Lip licking. That's often a really early sign, as you approach, that there's some concern that your dog has about that approach. And it's an easy one to miss. And it could be like I'm licking my lips like I've got peanut butter all over my face, or it could be just a little flick of the tongue, almost like a snake, slithers their tongue out. Moving slowly can also be a sign of resource guarding. A lip curl. A lip curl is, boy, it can be very, very subtle. It's usually one side of the mouth, and you'll see the lip kind of just raised just the tiniest bit, as a warning sign to whoever they're guarding from. Lowered posture over or in front of a resource. And we're going to be looking at some video today that will show you this quite clearly. But, being aware of that is also going to be very helpful. Placing their body between the resource and the approaching person or dog or whoever they're guarding from is another one. As Marnie mentioned earlier, carrying a resource away. They grab something and they retreat often to like their lair. It might be a crate or a certain room or something like that. And a head raising up high usually comes along with some body stiffness as the guardee is approaching. Another sign. Yeah. Let's go ahead to the next slide there, Marnie. Okay, so these are things that, boy, when you see this, you've missed the other ones, and now you really better stop. The biggie here goes along with sudden stillness, but it's a little more extreme, is freezing. And this, for me, is the one that I'm always really looking for. It's such a clear indication that something's going on. So I might, my dog might be eating, and I approach and they become completely frozen. Or they're playing with a toy and they become completely frozen. Growling, which we talked about a little bit earlier. Growling is a clear sign of guarding, often, again, after some of these other more subtle things have gone by and we've kind of cluelessly missed them because it's easy to do. The showing of teeth and snapping and ultimately biting, but hopefully we're going to stop before that. So let's see here. Why don't we go ahead? We're going to take a look at a video. This video, this is the beginning of it is almost comical, but it isn't comical after that. Two dogs, both with their own resource. And you're going to see Rio is the dog shown here. And then there's another dog, Shane. Hang on a sec, Marnie. Shane, who's on a bed with her own Kong. And what's going to happen? Well, you'll see the mishap that happens, and Shane will be the one who's guarding, the one on the left. Now, the way this video is put together is that the person who created it put. You'll see it several times, and she'll point out body language things with the garter, and then also Rio, the dog who can't get to his Kong. We're really kind of zeroing in on the garter, but it is useful to watch the other dog to see the response, to see some of those stress signals that get put out there. So let's go ahead and watch this, Marnie.
All right.
And there is no sound in this, by the way, so don't be concerned. So everyone's happy. And now not so much.
Did not mean to do that.
Oops. So Shane's the one on the left. It's an amazing amount of stuff that happens in that tiny bit of time. And you really have to be looking for it. It might look completely harmless until you start to look. And, you know, these are all really clear forms of communication between these two dogs. And fortunately, it doesn't amount to anything. If I saw that, though, I would probably intervene and, you know, try to alleviate some of that pressure that's going on. And I feel sorry for Rio losing his Kong too. So I probably try to remedy that. But that gives it some pretty clear demonstrations of some of these things.
Yeah.
Marnie, do you think maybe we want to just stop briefly and see if we've got any quick questions?
I think it's a great place to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can dogs guard other dogs that are friends of theirs?
Yes, we did it. We need to add that.
We do. We do.
Yeah, absolutely. That can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Come back next time for the new improved slides.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. What can you do when your dog guards an owner from interactions with other dogs or people? I can imagine that's very inconvenient.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Coming up later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Great question, though. Yeah.
And what if the dog brings a toy to you to play and then starts growling?
And I'm assuming it's not like a play growl, but rather I'm bringing the toy and you reach for it and no, you can't have it. That's interesting.
Well, the question is how you tell the difference between a play growl and a resource guarding growl, I guess. Good luck with that.
Go ahead, Marnie.
A couple of things. In general, though this is subtle, a guarding growl tends to be a little deeper, although some dogs are pretty deep in their growl when they're playing. I'd be looking at the body language. Is the rest of the body language bendy? Is the dog being goofy and bouncy and doing a lot of bowing and stuff? Or did the dog just drop it there and then wait in great stillness to see what I would do? I would be more cautious in the latter situation. But I'd still be looking, you know, is there a whale eye? Are the eyes soft? Is the tail softly moving? Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, if that were my dog and I was really uncertain, I would teach a really good drop it behavior so that I don't have to reach for it, you know, out of my dog's mouth. Yeah. I think Marnie's right, though. You have to look at the whole dog and not just one thing.
Yeah. I'd be practicing drop and trade, just, you know, with stuff my dog is kind of neutral about at first, just to build that skill with fabulous treats.
Here's an interesting question. How do you train yourself to always watch your dog and catch these signs?
Once
I
you
would-
start looking, you just start seeing. The more if you make a conscious effort, then you can't help but to see it after a while. So it's just a matter of practicing it.
And maybe count to one in your head. Wait one beat before you jump in to do a thing, just to get a sense of what's going on with your dog.
Yeah.
I think we humans sometimes engage very quickly rather than just taking that one breath to ask, I wonder what's going on here.
Yeah.
I have a question. How did you get that video of those two dogs? You happened to be there, or it was?
This was
that was going to happen.
The person who posted it happened to catch it. I think, if I recall, she was looking for something else and then happened to catch it. And so we did it. It wasn't our video. You can see that it's Tina Parker. She has a YouTube channel, Disc Dog Shane.
Right. And so she gave us permission to use it.
Well, that was very lucky that she had her video on.
I know. It was really lucky.
She's doing a video on Kongs. Yeah.
I think that is about it for now.
Great.
Okay.
Onward.
So, and this kind of ties into some of your questions already. Management is key. And what management is to organize, choreograph space and interactions to minimize the likelihood that your dog is going to feel the need to guard. In parallel to teaching some of the alternative skills that we'll be looking at today. So a couple of ways to manage a situation: use exercise pens, gates, and crates. You can use them a couple of different ways. Let's say you want to give your dog a high value resource, fabulous bully stick, and you have kids in your home or clueless adults, and you want to prevent them from swooping in and playing with the dog with the chew. You can put the dog in a crate if they're comfortable with it, behind a baby gate, behind an exercise pen, so that they have exclusive access to their resource. And it's a reminder to people, the dog's in their private space while they're enjoying their resource. We also, and you'll see this in some of the videos we're going to show in training, we will use barriers of one sort or another to prevent a mistake, to help our dogs feel comfortable with their resource, to kind of guide where the humans move when doing the exercise, and as a little bit of a safety net in case we miscalculate. A muzzle is a fabulous thing. I know so often when people hear references to muzzle, they're like, oh no, my dog's not a bad dog. And your dog is not a bad dog. But a muzzle, if our dogs are comfortable or become comfortable with it, can be a portable pen or a gate or a crate, a little portable safety net that your dog can wear in a situation where you would expect them to succeed without a muzzle, but you want that extra little piece of safety. It's really an excellent tool that way. Another aspect of management, let's say your dog loves to steal socks. Well, put your socks away. And again, it's another habit we're asking ourselves to build, but build a habit of putting things away, or if you're using gates and pens, set them up so that those resources are on the other side and your dog doesn't have access to them. Manage the humans of all ages, especially children. Kids, for the most part, love dogs, puppy, and want to interact with them, want to play with them, but getting right up in a dog's stuff, especially when they have a resource, is not a recipe for success. So the pens, gates, crates, and house rules can really help with that. Other family members, you'll want when you're working with a resource guarding dog to all be on the same page. And with visitors, you may manage your dog's location if you think that visitors are likely to have a triggering interaction with your dog. And just kind of let them know the best way to be around your dog, and manage other dogs and pets. Again, use the pens, the gates, and the crates when you're not actively training good interactions.
Okay, so we kind of have two things going here. We have management so that we set our dogs up to be successful. And also when we're working with them, we make sure that everyone is safe. But a big part of what we want to focus in on now is the training part. How do we get our dogs more comfortable so that we don't have this guarding behavior? First of all, right up front, alpha schmalpha. The whole alpha dog, my dog is trying to dominate, my dog is being alpha, I have to be the leader of the pack. All of that is, it's myth, it's fiction. It is based on a study that was done in the 1930s and 40s. And there was a study that was done with unrelated wolves in captivity. Okay, now, first of all, wolves don't live in non-family groups. They live in their family pack. Okay, so already we've got a problem with the study. And then, what we extrapolate from it, just because wolves and dogs are genetically similar, very similar, behaviorally, they're very, very different. And so this whole study is going to be problematic. But what happened is when you placed wolves in non-family groups, they tend to vie for control. In a family pack, there is an alpha, and it's really kind of like a caretaker father and the mating partner. But it's not a confrontational sort of situation. And in fact, the only fighting that really takes place is with an interloper coming in, and the alpha is going to protect the family. So it's really important to understand that the way we think of alpha in popular culture is really way off base. And it's certainly, dogs aren't wolves. And also, dogs know the difference between dogs and people. So they, to assume that they would relate in a similar way is a little bit silly as well. So we can let all of that go. Your dog is not trying to dominate you. If your dog likes to go out the door first, as long as you're okay with that and it's safe, let them. They're excited to go out. They're not trying to say, oh, I'm going to put you in your place and go ahead of you. Right? We don't have to worry about that. So what comes from this kind of thinking is a lot of punishment. I'm going to put you in your place kind of stuff. And that's really not how we want to train. We want to focus in on training the behaviors that we want. Not instead of punishing the things that we don't want, we want to train the things that we do want. It's actually much easier to teach a dog what to do than the absence of behavior. Anytime we punish, we run a lot of risks. One is that we might inadvertently reward a behavior. If we wait for it to happen and then we punish it, it's quite possible that we could end up rewarding it. Good example, a dog who jumps on people in greeting. The dog jumps up and I say, no, and push the dog down. That dog's trying to get, close to me and get attention. And I've just rewarded it with attention. Right. So that's punishment in that case. It may actually be rewarding. The other thing is that punishment doesn't teach them what we want. Okay. It can drive a real wedge between you and your dog. And, we're trying to work on this as though there's a partnership, not a confrontational sort of relationship. Punishment's going to cause problems that way. And then finally, punishment tends to create aggression, which is what we're trying not to have here. a dog who is trained using punishment, even, relatively mild punishment, all the studies show that they're about 3 times more likely to become aggressive, or in the case of a garter, become even more aggressive. And so we don't want to punish the behavior, but we want to address the underlying issue, and we want to teach the things we want instead. Okay.
All right. So what do we want training to accomplish? Kind of 2 pieces to training when we're working with our resource guarding dogs. The first is we want to change their emotions and responses to us or others as we approach when they have treasures. We'll actually be looking at an exercise in the next slide that shows a very measured, controlled way to do that that's been quite effective. So we'll be changing how they feel about our approach. We'll be doing things that reward them rather than, racing in and taking things from them. And we're going to teach alternative skills for us and our dogs. What do we do when the dog's got the sock because we left the baby gate open, because we're human beings and stuff happens that doesn't involve us going and yanking the sock away from them, but builds a compatible cooperative approach to that situation.
All right, so we're going to start with the changing your dog's emotions part of the picture here with an exercise that we call pass by. And so pass by, the basic idea here is that we settle our dogs with a resource. And we want to make sure that when we're doing this, particularly in the beginning as we're working this out, that everyone's safe. So we're going to use a gate or an X pen, or if you don't have those things, even a tethering your dog to something so that no mistakes happen. We're going to settle them comfortably with that resource. And then what we're going to begin to do is walk past the dog very nonchalantly and without interacting at a distance where they're not going to feel the need to guard. So if I am walking by and my dog freezes or shows any of those signs that we talked about, that means I'm too close. I need to be further away. Okay. As I approach my dog, I'm going to toss a treat and then keep on walking by out of sight. And then I'm going to come back again. And as I approach, toss a treat and keep on walking past. Okay. And it's this back and forth movement. We're never walking at our dogs, right? It's this sort of going back and forth with them watching. Okay. So let's see, Marnie, you want to go to the next slide for a second? Okay, so we have some videos from the online resource guarding class that we teach, and we pulled out some excerpts for you guys to watch. So it gets a little confusing because in the videos, you're going to hear us talking. That's not us right now. That's us in the class. And sometimes we're a little bit silly in the class, but you'll get the idea. The first one is showing this pass by with a really great setup using an X pen. The dog, Indy, has a resource. It's a chew. And Shep, his person, is walking by and doing a pass by. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and show this.
Okay. Best setup ever.
Yeah.
It just looks like really sturdy.
Look. Oh, nice.
Oh, you've got a couple of, that is nice. Couple of places to be. Nice. What's the resource Indy has, Shep?
It is Norwegian alligator dental treats. I don't have eyes on him. Can someone tell me whether he's back to treat?
Yeah, he's back. Let's give him like maybe a count of 5 before you start tossing again. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's.
Where's your treat? Where's your stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So he's queuing again a little bit. So give him a moment. That's great. That's great. Oh, but he hears you. He's like, where's the cheese?
Which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. At least that's how I'm reading that, Sarah. He was pretty still, but it didn't seem like he
No,
was
I didn't think
concerned.
it didn't look guardy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's gonna.
And he just rolled on his hip. So he's chewing a thing rolled on his hip as you're there. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's looking up like, oh, good. Not like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
not
Exactly.
like he's worried.
Do you want me to toss it away from him, or like my shot is getting pretty good. I can get mozzarella right in between his paws.
So it might be an interesting, I think aiming it right there is great, but it might be an interesting test to toss it away and see if he leaves to get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, and he does.
He's easily going away.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's great.
That is great.
Okay, so you can see the way we have that set up. Everyone's safe, and we're allowing in between pass-bys, we're allowing Indy to chew on that thing and kind of get involved with it. And then, oh, here comes a person, and this great thing happens. And we're always watching Indy's body language to see when the person approaches. Is there a lot of stillness or stiffness, or is it, oh, good, you're here again with the cheese? And you notice we were talking about that in the video. Look sort of anticipatorily at, up to see, waiting for the cheese to come. Will your dog actually leave the resource to go get the treat that you've tossed? Those are all things that we're looking for. And again, we're after the underlying emotion of them thinking, oh, someone's coming, oh, good, instead of someone's coming, I better hide this. Okay. So once we've worked on this for a while and we're making some progress, we can tell that the dog's comfortable. You can begin to do this kind of, as Marnie and I say, in the wild, in real life, right? We can do it, impromptu. My dog gets something. And now, okay, training opportunity. And so this next video with Ellie and her dog Cooper kind of shows that sort of setup where she knows exactly how close she can get to Cooper. There's no barrier at this point because we're all certain. You'll notice how, watch her approach and how she kind of changes it so that she never gets too close to him. And watch his body language, because it's really interesting to watch him respond. Yeah. Let's go ahead and start this, Marnie. It's kind of funny, isn't it? They're so ridiculously smart.
I know.
There he goes. Oh.
He's like, well, I guess I could have this. So I'll just lie on it.
Lie on it.
And this is what he was doing the other day. He was lying and he'd literally bring it to you and whine.
but still guard.
Look at him.
I know. I like that you adjusted your trajectory. I mean, where you were walking.
Yes, me
Made him
too.
like
Keep that
food
distance.
once. I don't think he'd do anything, but he's pretty in tune with the fact that he's getting food every time I go by.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But he's still making sure that he's between you and the sock.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder he brings you the sock. He's like, let's do that again.
I know.
That's a good deal. He's going to start walking with you. So that was an example of a dog who guarded stolen things. Socks were high on his list, although pretty much anything that he stole. And sometimes when we do this, you know, you have to actually create a scenario where they can steal something
Yeah.
to be able to work with them. Because, you know, handing Cooper a sock, he probably wouldn't guard it. But if he felt like he had stolen it, he's going to be likely to guard it. And you can see she's very careful in how she does it. But we felt perfectly safe at this point without that barrier. So then the question is, how in the world do you do this with dogs? So what if your dog guards against other dogs and not people? And so we want to show you a video of that. Pippin, who is the dog who has the resource behind the pen, and Arwen, who is walking with her person in a pass-by pattern, and you'll see what this looks like. Wait till you see Arwen. She's ridiculously cute.
Oh, okay.
I've had all these guys in puppy class.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Oh, and Pippin already knows something's different. Sarah, I don't know if you're looking at the screen. His posture changed.
Yeah, I did.
So he's given us a really good short course in body language.
Looks like he's eating faster.
He's
too.
eating faster.
Good. And you can give Arwen some treats as you walk to kind of keep her focused. Oh, what the heck? You got something stuck.
You think? Yeah. Now I'd be starting, it didn't look like it was a particular problem for Pippin beyond the whole thing, but I'd be starting by keeping Arwen on the side away from Pippin.
It's hard to keep her anyway.
I know. And hopefully with you between them. Yeah.
And I couldn't see if she's tossing treats.
I couldn't tell either.
There you go. Oh, it's because he's getting to him so fast.
Yeah. That was a nice adjustment with Arwen's position.
It was very funny.
It was like, never mind. Perfect. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
She's a very willing participant.
She is. Yeah. And
She likes-
coming up the stairs, she gets a little bit of mojo going to get up those stairs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you would scale that back.
Guys, Lauren asked a question specific to this.
Hold on. Deborah, just hold on one second. Better, huh?
I'm thinking it's peanut butter.
I didn't realize that's what it was.
That's interesting. Man, my dogs want to be her dog.
I know, really.
Nice. This is looking really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking quite comfortable now.
Pippin is, yeah. I wonder if he didn't have a peanut butter smear in his mouth, if he'd be quite as comfortable, but
Right.
no, he's in the game. See how he is on this next pass. with the mojo. Yeah.
I think he's all right. Should we do just one more and then?
Yeah. Let's do one more and declare victory. He's like, are you going to do that thing again, Mom? I think you can. Oh, there we go. There's
Oh yeah, he's barely even looking at her.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to stop in just a sec to take questions here because I know there might be several of them. But you can see how that can work with a dog as well. And in fact, we had someone in class with a cat. The dog was guarding with the cat. And it was really nice because the cat knew how to walk on a leash. Otherwise, we did have someone else where they actually held the cat and we were able to do it. Oops, Marnie, yeah, there we go.
I undid it.
Yeah. Okay. So Deborah, you want to go ahead with questions?
Yeah, the immediate question was, what if Pippin had been barking or growling? What would you have done?
I would have set this, that's a great question. I would have set this up very differently where I would have had myself and my dog who's doing the pass by much further away, right? So when you're working with this kind of stuff, like with so much really good positive training, you often feel like you aren't doing anything because you're not seeing the behavior that you're trying to change, right? So when you're passing by, you know, in that last video, there was a little bit of, oh, here comes the dog, I better start eating faster. That was the extent of it, really. That was the only thing that was close to guarding looking. It was fairly subtle, and that went away really fast.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting any kind of displays of, you know, showing, guarding behavior, then I've got to change my setup and be much further away and then gradually work on being able to be closer. Marnie, you want to add anything to that?
We were fortunate that they were able to work in that space. That is a small space for dog guarding, but it worked for Pippin. I think the addition of the gate or the pen helped Pippin feel less concerned about loss of access to the resource. You might have noticed in the video talking about subtle signs that early on, Pippin actually did place himself between them and the resource with his back to them and his nose in the feeder. And as he became more comfortable, then he stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is kind of long, but I think you probably need the circumstances. Would this work with humans as a resource? My adult daughter with her 9-year-old Aussie is about to move back home with me with my 4-year-old German Shepherd. Each resource guards their special human, and both dogs treat me as their number one. How to blend them without fight so we can stop using gates all over the house.
Yeah. So you can do, we've worked with this and it's the same idea, although we'd put you'd be with your dog and the person or the dog would do the pass by and toss treats as they go by, just like this. But instead of settling your dog with, a chew, we settle him with you. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing, because remember, the message is, in this situation where you are likely to want to guard, when someone approaches, dog or person, something good happens, right? So that, and you don't have to feel the need to guard because something good is going to happen.
Yeah. And let me add, in terms of the geography of the setup, the lateral approach, none of these videos show a person or an animal approaching the guarding dog. They are going back and forth at the same distance, which would be where you would start initially.
Right. And, eventually you would be able to work up to something more direct, but you always want to start where you're going to be more likely to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, as far as gates and things go, it's going to take some time. And I'm guessing that you're going to be managing for a while with gates, because when you're actively training, you may be able to eventually get rid of those gates. But I would be on the cautious side. Every time they guard, they just practice the thing you didn't want them to do. So we really want to try to avoid letting that happen while we're doing this training, if we possibly can.
Yeah. And let me applaud you for having gates and pens.
Yeah.
Already having that in place. Yeah.
Yep.
How do you work on dog guarding when the dog will now value any place they receive the treats?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's challenging. I wonder how quickly that association forms. I wonder if you couldn't keep kind of changing locations.
Yeah.
And using leashes to make it a little more practical.
Yeah. And fluid. Yeah.
Yeah. So that it's not always one spot.
Yeah. Sorry. I'd be going for places with a lot of elbow room. More honestly than any of the videos that we've shown you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard that's hard.
Yeah.
I've got a harder one for you in a few minutes.
Excellent.
So when it's okay for the human to pick up the object the dog is guarding, how long do I keep doing the treat tossing?
Hold that thought for our next.
Yeah,
video.
hold off.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you answered that one. Let me see if I can find that really hard one.
Stump the trainer. Thanks, Deborah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why there are two of us.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, there it is. No, that's not it. Never mind. I may ask later. There were questions about guarding you against your spouse or your daughter. What to do about those situations?
It's the same thing, right? The person approaches. It's the exact same thing, except you're the resource instead of a chew, right? So you're settled there with your dog, and then the daughter or the husband, whoever does this, pass bys, right? So that their approach means something good's going to happen instead of something bad. It's exactly the same.
One kind of tweak to add, and we'll be looking at a skill that can help with this, is, let's say, for example, a common situation is I'm sitting on the couch, my dog is on the couch with me, someone approaches, my dog begins to guard me and or the space. If I know that that's likely to happen before my dog begins to feel the need to guard, I'm probably going to redirect them elsewhere in a positive way, toss a treat for them to chase. Especially when I'm not actively training my dog to be comfortable with that situation. Just because dog on couch next to me, ask me how I know, is a lot more loaded than dog on floor next to the couch. For many dogs.
Yeah, and often guarding really is tied to a specific kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Often involving a couch.
Yeah.
Okay, but not in this question. I found it. How do you teach alternative behavior and change emotions when the dog guards the opportunity while she figures out if there is a resource she's interested in? This can be a smell, a place where she previously received a treat, or a place where she received something good in the past. She guards against my other dog only.
So is it like, I guess I'm a little unsure. It's like guarding it, like a room that the dog's going into to look for something?
It sounds like it might also be, oh, a piece of kibble went under the stove once. You may never come by
You may
the
never
stove.
come by
now.
the stove again.
Yeah.
Let's see if she added any more later while you're asking that.
One of the things I would ask myself in that scenario is, what are the other things that are stressing my dog out? Because that's pretty extreme. You know, it's one thing if they've got that resource there or it's in sight, but the memory of, I don't know. I'm just wondering, like, what else is going on that's making my dog that worried about things?
Yeah. I'd be taking note of the specific places. I realize it sounds like a growing list, but I'd be noting the specific places, even, you know, maybe making notes on a calendar when it happens, and doing something a little bit like a pass by. I'd be doing it initially without the other dog, and then gradually adding the other dog in where, let's say I had a client whose dog guarded many things, but in particular, the closet where the kibble was sometimes kept. And we basically made anybody's approach in the general direction of that closet predict great stuff, treats tossed for the dog, who gradually began to think, oh, people approaching the closet predicts good things for me. I don't need to worry about losing access to it. I'm doing some version of that. And again,
Yeah.
maybe muzzles. This may be a case where when you're training, you need that portable protection.
Yeah.
It's a good
I'd love-
question.
It's hard to
Having-
without particulars. It's tough, but
Yeah.
You know, when the dog is on your lap and is guarding you. So they have a question about that.
Yeah. So that goes back to kind of the previous where we were talking about dog on a sofa next to us. If we know that's going to be a guarding situation, I generally like to change the geography, if you will, invite the dog to be somewhere else when people approach. That's management. And then would do a version of pass-bys with the dog on the lap, just as we've seen in the videos.
Okay, I mean, we could go on forever, but you probably should go back and we can get to these questions later.
okay. Well, yeah, we can go on and then we'll circle back for sure. We should have plenty of time.
Sure. All right. Great questions, guys. Okay, so how do I get the dog off my lap, you might ask? This next approach is, just double check a thing. Yeah, this next approach is a really simple, crazy simple, really powerful way to move our dogs around. And you'll also see in the video using it to move a dog while building a positive association. Many of you may already be using Find It, to play with your dogs. It can be really strategic. So the basic steps are you say Find It, and then you follow saying Find It by tossing a treat on the floor or ground, especially at first where it's easy for your dog to find it. The moment your dog finishes the treat, you say Find It again and then toss another treat. So we don't wait for our dogs to eat the treat and look back at us. They may do that like really quickly because they love the game. But the goal is to keep our dogs focused in hunting and foraging to find that treat. We can use Find It when our dog has a resource to move them away. When they're far away from that resource, so that there's absolutely no competition over the resource. They're way far away finding stuff. We'll pick it up and then we immediately return it to our dog. This is once they've really gotten into the game of Find It. They love Find It. It's great. They love to move around with it. That's when we begin to bring it in when there's a resource. We want to avoid any racing to a resource with our dog. We just really want to build an interaction that's predictable. They know what's going to happen and they know it's going to be good. And they know that 9.9 times out of 10, they're going to get that resource back. So I'm going to go ahead and play 2 videos. The first one's just a really quick video of working with my own dog doing Find It, which I realized I did not call up. There we go. Just the basics is kind of find it 3 ways: moving him to me, moving him away from a resource, or moving him with me. I might use Find It to move with him away from something challenging.
Find it. 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 Find it.
And I would introduce the game with this rapid reinforcement.
Find it. 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 Find it.
Okay, so it is that simple a game. Introduce your dogs to this game when there isn't a resource present. We want them to hear the words Find It and go, oh, I get to search for things. A nice side effect of this game, when our dogs are sniffing and searching, it tends to lower arousal. The heart rate tends to slow and the respiration increases. So it has a nice calming effect. So Team Sarah and Cash did Find It in our class. They were working without a barrier. Cash could be quite a guarder, but you'll be able to see how well Cash's person, Sarah, implemented this and how she used it to move him away and then return things to him.
Find it.
I actually did make you.
Find it.
I'm not.
It didn't go through.
Find it.
Now I am, yeah.
Good. Okay.
Find
So
it.
let's try moving him away from you, like towards the door. So you're gonna
Okay.
stay in one spot. You know, you're gonna stay where you are.
Oh, you want me to stay where I'm at?
Yeah. Every
You want me to,
time
like,
you walk
toss it?
by, he freezes. So be careful.
Yeah, right.
You want me to like toss it that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Find it. Find it. Find it. There we go. Find it. Ooh, hit his butt. Find it.
Good.
Yeah.
Find it.
Okay, and let's let him come back to the dinosaur. So just ignore him for a minute. There he is, hanging over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He definitely wanted to go back and hover.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that dinosaur.
Isn't that funny? Well, it's good. It's so predictable.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to work with him. Look at him. He's so funny.
And can I make one suggestion?
Yes.
That as much as you're able, if you can keep your tone when you cue Find It to be light.
Okay.
So that he feels like, oh, this is a game. There's no pressure on me. Yeah.
Okay.
It's always the hounds. He is a
He's
handsome
like,
dog.
he knows something's going on.
I know. He's like, "Ooh, I don't get this. What's going on?" There he goes. All right, let's try again.
Find it. Find it.
There you go.
Find it.
Nice adjustment.
Find it.
Very nice.
Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it. There. Find it.
Okay, and then let's stop and let him go back.
Okay.
So he's moving away pretty easily.
Yeah, that's usually the trick we use, is to toss something and he'll go to it.
Yeah.
So
But it's also this sort of alternation of letting him go back to it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like you move away, oh, you get to go back to it. It's no big deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's very funny.
He is. He has personality for sure.
Yeah, I feel like letting them go back is kind of the biggest part of this whole thing.
Me too.
That's how.
All right, let's do one more time.
Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it.
And so as you're tossing, keep going further, having him go further, and you just like take, once he's moving away, you can take one tiny step towards the dinosaur.
Okay.
So
Find
toss,
it.
there you go. Tiny. There we go. And
Find it.
good.
Find it.
Well, let's just,
Find it.
Interesting.
Find
They just waited for you to replenish instead.
yeah,
of-
he didn't go back.
Yeah.
Find it.
Did I go into turn off?
If you can go further, get him
Okay.
further away, and then just pick it
Find
up,
it.
and then give it right back to him,
Pick it up.
and then give it right back.
Here you go, bud.
Good. And just move away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Let him have it.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So let's stop there. Is it okay if we let him just have it for now?
Yeah, he can have it. Yeah.
Okay.
He still has all its legs, so.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
good.
one of the reasons I was thinking of moving him away from you is so that you don't end up between him and the thing and end up racing him to it.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't get between the sacred dinosaur and him. Definitely not. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that find it moves him so that you can just take those quiet steps forward enough to.
Yeah.
All right. Well done.
Right. So you saw how many times she let him go back to, as she called it, the sacred dinosaur, which is a big part of preventing our dogs being afraid that we're tricking them. We want this to be a fair game where they get to play find it, they get to return, they get to play find it, so that they don't see the game as predicting a loss of access to the resource.
Can I add one thing to that? Which you said, but I want to just emphasize, you really have to practice find it when there's no resource a lot.
Absolutely.
So it's like, this is a really fun game we do,
Yeah.
right? Because if you only pull it out, even if you do it well, if you only pull it out when they've got something, you get that suspicion like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
you're up to something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then our saying find it becomes a predictor that they'll lose their resource, and it just turns this thing on its head. Yeah. It's a great game. Okay. Speaking of games.
Yeah, speaking of great games. So this is something we want to introduce to you. Everyone should know about the counting game. The
Oh, yeah.
counting game is kind of like a different version of Find It. And it's a way of getting your dog to move away from something, just as Find It is, without pressuring them in some way. Like often, guarding will start as soon as you take one little step towards your dog. And so with Find It, we can avoid that. And with the counting game, it's the same thing. And you'll see, we're going to watch just a clip of a video by Chirag Patel. He's a wonderful trainer who came up with this idea. You'll see how he builds it. So let me just stop talking and we'll go ahead and watch that clip.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so with each number that he counts out loud, he's placing a treat on the ground, and you'll notice he's not looking at the dog while he's doing it. It's not like I'm going to lure you over here, but rather, oh, look over here, and I'm doing something fun over here. And the first time, what does he count up to, like 20 or something?
Like
but
that.
pretty soon he's, at 1, 2, 3. Okay, gotta move.
Yeah.
The dog's right there. So again, it'd be a good way to move your dog away from a resource, and either let them go back, or maybe someone else could pick up the resource and hand it back to them. But same idea.
Right. Another skill that's really great to have is a rock solid recall. A word that you can say to bring your dog to you. Some of the things we've looked at, such as the counting game or find it, may not work in a dog-dog situation. If your dogs have conflict over food, over treats, but being able to call your dog away can avoid challenges. And also, if you're able to call them out of a situation, even better. So I'm going to touch on the steps here, and then at the end of the slides, we have a link to a video that can be helpful for a deeper dive. You want to condition a powerful word, and you do that by saying the word and then following the word with the best treat your dog has ever had. You would do that, 5 times, maybe toss a treat away for a little break, 5 times again, say the word, feed your dog. And once your dog is really responding well, it's like, oh, I love it when I hear that word. Then you could add a tiny distraction, toss a treat away to refocus your dog, not 6 feet away, but a couple feet away. So your dog is looking away so that you've refocused your dog's attention. You're going to say that special word. The moment your dog looks back, you're going to mark and feed a delicious treat. What does it mean to mark? It means to either click or say a clicker word in the very moment your dog is doing the thing. In this case, the thing is looking back at you when you say the recall word. So let me go back to make sure that I haven't been confusing. You've tossed a treat away to refocus your dog's attention. You say your recall word. Let's say your word is here. The moment your dog looks back, you're going to click a clicker or say your clicker word like yes, and then you follow that with a delicious treat. And you repeat that maybe 5 times again, take a little break, 5 times again. You're going to gradually, ever so gradually increase the difficulty. If our dog is responding beautifully in our family room, we're not going to expect it to work in a 2-acre field. Maybe in the family room, then in the room just inside the back door, then just outside the back door, so that the difficulty is raised at a level where our dog can succeed.
Okay. Martin, can you flip back for just 1 sec before I do this? I was just going to say, I saw a question kind of flash by.
Oh, okay.
And so I was going to address it. With Find It, that is something that you are very unlikely to do with dog guarding, right? Yeah. This recall away is something that I would practice like crazy with a dog who guards with other dogs to get my dog away from them. Mm-hmm. So just to be clear that, there are some things that are more appropriate for people guarding and dog guarding.
Right. Yeah, using a method where we're tossing treats on the ground can backfire when we're dealing with
not so much
issues.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good. Okay. So when do I want to go see a veterinary behaviorist, or do I want to see a veterinary behaviorist? So here's the thing. Veterinary behaviorists are vets. They've been to veterinary school. They're certified vets, and then they do additional training specifically on behavioral medicine. And so it's like the psychiatrist in the dog world, right? And there are times where if I am doing my training and I'm just hitting a wall, okay, I'm not seeing any progress, or the guarding starts to get worse, or my dog has a general level of anxiety that's making it impossible for them to even really train effectively. That's when I'm thinking about a veterinary behavior. So like maybe a little bit of anxiety medication or something like that might really help so that they can learn more easily. And so, our regular vets can prescribe those sorts of medications. I think, they don't have the same expertise. Frankly, they can't, because they're treating so many different things, right? Whereas these veterinary behaviorists zero in on this and they see this kind of stuff all the time. So they know, they have some nuance in how they prescribe these medications. We, if you're in this area, we have some names, Dr. Amy Pike, Dr. Leslie Sin, Dr. Megan Connolly, who is finishing up her residency with Dr. Pike, and, oh no, wrong way, finishing her residency with Dr. Sin, and Dr. Ropsky is finishing up with Dr. Pike. So we basically have 4 in this area. If you're not local to the Rockville, DC area, this isn't going to help you, but there are others out there. If you're looking for a veterinary behaviorist, make sure you're looking for a veterinary behaviorist, the DACVB. There are a lot of people who will call themselves behaviorists, but you really want to be dealing with a veterinary behaviorist for this sort of thing.
And there's an organization with the website is the the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, AVSAB.org, where you can get a listing of vet behaviorists as well. Actually, I'm going to add this to the slides.
Yeah, we should add that to the slide. That's a good idea.
All right. Further resources. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's several of our go-to resources. First is a book by Pat Miller called "Beware of the Dog" is the short title, and it's a good kind of first introduction to canine aggression. It explains a lot of the different aspects of aggression, including resource guarding. And in low-level cases, there are some training protocols that can be helpful, as well as information on when you don't want to be doing a do-it-yourself. The Bacon Recall by trainer Lisa Mullinax introduces the common called behavior that we were looking at in a previous slide. So she goes in this video through nicely thin sliced layered steps to going from introducing the word to a dog who's willing to run down from climbing on a rock pile. Chirag Patel, who did the counting game video, has a great video on teaching our dogs to wear a muzzle. He makes it a fabulous game. You'll see in that video how much the dog enjoys it. And that's on his YouTube channel. And then there's a website, the Muzzle Up Project, that has a lot of resources to helping dogs become comfortable with muzzles. Also a lot of guidance on different kinds of muzzles. Right.
And that brings us to the end. So we will be happy to answer questions, but thank you for being here. And we also want to just say a thanks to the people in our classes who let us use their videos. They were very kind in letting us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have plenty of time here for questions. Deborah, if you want to.
Okay, you have plenty of questions.
Okay.
Okay, so if your dog picks up things on walks, but other than that, really just picks up, food at home that you give them, how do you teach drop it?
So
How do you give them, how do you get them to grab something so you can teach them to drop it?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Does that help?
Presumably they pick things up, maybe not when you're trying to get them to pick it up. So maybe they'll pick up a toy when they're playing, or I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe-
that's what she's saying. They don't pick up toys or socks or she would have to find a way to get the dog to grab something.
Well, believe it or not, there's a great way to teach drop it where you start when they don't have anything in their mouths, which sounds positively insane, but it works really, really well. I wonder if I can throw the link into the chat box. I think I can do that. It's another video by Chirag Patel. Can you tell we like him?
Yeah.
Drop it. Let's see. Yep, there it is. He actually starts, it's really genius. The dog has nothing and then works up to when the dog has things in his mouth.
Yeah. Including a hot dog.
Including a hot dog, an entire hot dog.
Yeah.
Man,
But again, it's this
there would be such a video.
it's this thinly layered process where he just starts with the dog building the skill of when I hear drop it, I open my mouth and I look at the ground, because initially there's food. And, and then gradually within the dog's ability to succeed makes it harder.
Yep.
And one of the nice things about the video is he miscalculates at one place and he shows us how he deals with that in a way that doesn't put pressure on the dog.
I might also add that Find It could work for you.
It could.
By practicing Find It. It's very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But one of the things, we had someone in class whose dog was constantly picking things up outside and they felt like nothing was working. And I remember saying, well, what do you do when she picks something up? And he said he pulls on the leash. And we said, don't do that. That made the dog think that they had to guard. And as soon as he stopped doing that, the dog didn't guard anything anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're, one of the things is to not kind of panic and do something sudden or move towards your dog or yank on the leash, because that could actually undermine, all the training that you do.
Yeah.
Pretend you don't care,
Right.
even though you do.
Okay. How do you practice when you're the resource and you are with your dog and the cat approaches?
You, Marnie, you want to take that, Marnie?
So if I know that that's a thing, let me think that through. If I know that that's a thing, I'm going to do setups. If it's possible to get a human helper to approach with the cat, it would look very much like the Pippin and Arwen video, where I would be in the pen. I would be the feeder of peanut butter. I'd be in the pen with my dog. The helper will approach with the cat, again, laterally, and we would work to make the approach of the cat predict great stuff coming from the helper who's moving with the cat. If it's not possible to get a human helper, and my dog and cat don't like the same food, that's a thing. I would practice Find It's when the cat is not there, and in particular focus on Find It's to move my dog away, possibly even to move my dog to a specific space. Cat comes, I would be then cueing my dog to go to that specific space that I taught with the Find It. That would be where I would start. If it's related to being on my lap, because ask me how I know, often being on a person's lap can really add to the guarding behavior. If the cat's kind of getting in the general area, I would just take my dog somewhere. Again, this is management, somewhere lovely that isn't my lap. Okay, Sarah, do you want to turn at this?
I think it's hard without someone helping.
Yeah.
And, for someone to come with the cat.
Yeah. Barriers maybe, but cats.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I think I would be hard pressed to do it without a little bit of help. The one thing I want to throw out there is that if the cat is petrified of the dog, you may need to work with that first, because it's really unfair to, like, the dog's there and you pick up the cat and start walking laterally towards the dog and the cat's terrified. It's, we don't want to torture the cat in the process.
Yeah.
So, they get along just fine. I can see that come across on chat. That's good.
Oh, great.
So yeah, I would get a helper
Or a trainer.
or trainer. It
Yeah.
works. So we had someone in class, and all they did, one person walked in with the cat in his arms and walked by, and it worked beautifully. I mean, within a couple of weeks.
Yeah. They had success really quickly. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned it's helpful to divert your dog by throwing a treat before they have an opportunity to guard. But what if there's no time? Our dog guards me in the room or on the couch. And if someone else suddenly enters the room, I don't have time to toss a treat to distract her. It's also not specific to the couch. She guards the room that I'm in.
So I would be doing the setups to do pass-bys without the person walking in the room, but rather walking laterally by, past the door, probably with a gate there to start, right? So, and then work up to actually being able to walk into the room. That's one thing I would do.
And when they enter the room, kind of not straight in, but at an angle.
At an angle, right. So they're not walking directly towards you at first, So you're always starting where you try to make it easy enough. It's like an approximation of the final thing that you want, a person walking up to you. But we have to work our way up gradually to that so that our dog doesn't feel the need to guard. I also did a thing with somebody with this issue where the person walked laterally and then started doing find it, and the dog would go running out to do find it with the person, so that when the person appeared, the dog's like, oh good, and they would leave their person to go running over to see the other person who did find it with them.
Yeah.
And that might also help too, so that they look forward to seeing that person even when they're with their own person.
And counting game.
The counting game could work too.
Some back and forth counting game with family members could actually change that up a bit too.
Yeah. That's a good idea, Marnie.
Thank you.
Okay. When my dog has a treasure, he frantically runs around the room to other rooms, trying to find a place to hide it. Once it's hidden, if the other dog comes anywhere near that place, he will growl and eventually attack.
I know my go-to first, if this would work, would be whenever I'm giving something really good like that to my dog, I would put them in a space by themselves.
Yeah.
Just manage it.
Yeah.
Let them be in their crate or in another room with a baby gate across. Just eliminate the possibility of that. And then they also don't have to worry about it. They can just enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
One cautionary note. I would be aware that the space where the dog tends to bury might also become a guarded space.
Yep, that's a good point. Yep.
My dog, this is really tough. My dog has started guarding me from my husband wherever I am in the house. My dog can be on the floor with a toy or just relaxing. And if my husband comes in the room towards me, my dog will run to get between us. It didn't used to happen at all and doesn't always happen, but it has been happening more in the past couple months. Other than getting a divorce. What are the solutions?
Now, that's a different webinar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marnie, I would do click for looking, but haven't covered that.
Oh, that's a good thought.
So,
I'd also be doing pass-bys.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the same thing. You can't set it up in every scenario, right? I mean, but you could practice it in a couple of different locations where, the husband does a pass by and tosses food. And if you do it in a bunch of places, then my hope would be that the dog would start to generalize and understand, oh, it's good. It doesn't matter where we are. It's okay when this person comes in.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. That's one thing. I mean, I think there are others, and that might be, I have to say, that might be complicated enough that I would probably have a private trainer help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think, Marnie?
I do. Unless, if your husband built the habit of doing some find its when he entered the room and your dog was like, best game ever.
Yeah.
And the behavior faded, then I think you're good to go. Otherwise, absolutely. Yeah. A private trainer.
Yeah.
So something you just said just triggered another question.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, but is there a way to get the dog to like the husband more so that you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They used to say, have the husband feed the dog. But what do you do so that?
Well, that's a really good question, because my question then is the dog guarding the person, or is the dog just upset about the person?
Right.
The husband.
Yeah.
So is the problem, is it a reaction to the husband coming in, or is it actually guarding the wife from the husband? Because those are two different, really distinct things.
Yeah.
If it's the first, if it's just the person, the dog is uncomfortable with that person, then I do think there are things, to be worked on to build up that relationship. But again, it's sort of a different issue.
Yeah.
Okay. If a dog guards stolen objects, is it okay to use similar objects to find it? For example, a shoe you don't mind them having, or does that teach them that it's okay to steal shoes?
So use similar objects for, I missed the last part of that.
Find it.
Or find it.
Like tossing shoes on the ground.
That's what I'm wondering. Are you tossing shoes, or do you have your dog find hidden objects?
It sounds like, is it okay to toss a shoe that you don't care if they have? Or does that teach them that it's okay to steal shoes?
That sounds confusing to me.
Yeah, I think the dog would find it.
I'm not sure why you would toss a shoe.
Yeah. Oh, probably because it's so rewarding. I think that's what the person's thinking.
Yeah.
But I think that would be really confusing to the dog, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. My dog can get quite angry if we try to move her off our bed. How should we handle this?
Take it away.
So physically moving our dogs, and we didn't actually touch on that directly, and I'm sorry we didn't, because that's a way that we can really inadvertently teach dogs to guard spaces. The counting game and find it actually are great ways to invite a dog to voluntarily move off a piece of furniture. I would, once we've introduced one or the other of those games to the dog, I would then use it specifically when it's not a loaded situation to invite them off the furniture. And rather than pushing, which it can be uncomfortable, it's oppositional, it's forcible, the dog has no choice, making it desirable for them to get off when we ask with either of these games can really change that up.
Yeah.
Here's someone whose dog leans against her while looking at her daughter and growling.
Okay.
It's like, you're mine.
Wild guess, is that a herding dog? But
Yeah, really.
just a guess.
I mean, I think you're dealing with the same thing of guarding a person. It's just manifesting itself slightly differently.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing of doing those pass-bys, the daughter, walking laterally and rewarding.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're training two dogs to find it, do you train the two separately?
Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. So, as we mentioned before, if you have dogs who guard food from each other, find it may not be your go-to strategy. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, absolutely. Teaching that game, I would teach the game individually so that my dog draws that really strong association between the cue and the treat. Every time they hear find it, there's a treat that's specific to them.
And if a dog is guarding a person, should that person do find it, or should it be someone else, like the person she's guarding against? Did you follow that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that goes back to my comment that of the person appears and starts doing find it while the dog is sitting with another person. So I would have, find it is a great thing, and it's a positive association with the person who's doing it. So I would use that as an opportunity to, the person who enters the room or just outside of the room starts doing find it, brings dog away from the person they're guarding. And they're having this great interaction then with the person that they would normally be upset about.
Yeah. That said, as if my dog knows find it, I'm the one who's got the pocket full of kibble. That can absolutely be a great way to move the dog away, which will unload that situation a bit as well.
Okay. I'm confused on the recall game. You throw the treat away from you. The dog goes to get it. You use the recall word and mark it when he turns to look at you. But how do you deliver the reinforcement when he just looks at you, but is not close to you?
Okay, so the video will make that clear. But let me answer the question as well. So I tossed a treat really very close to me initially. And so at first I've drawn the association, dog loves a recall word. Then I toss a treat to redirect his attention. And generally it's going to be something not exciting like a kibble or something that I toss away. So my dog is just looking away a little bit. He eats the kibble. I say the recall word. He looks back at me and I mark it, but we're very close. And then I have the best treat ever in my hand and just kind of hold it out. I'm not reaching for my dog, but the treat is there. If we're close, the dog is going to come back to eat that treat. And I would repeat that in close proximity so that we build that strong response of, you say that word, I turn back to you, I hear the marker, and then I get this great treat. And then when my dog is doing this in fairly close proximity, we gradually add distance at a level at which my dog will succeed.
The thing about using a marker too, like if you are familiar with a clicker, use a clicker, or you could use a word like yes. The moment they turn to you, they're going to learn very quickly that when they hear that, a treat's about to follow. So that's also when they hear that, they're going to follow through.
Right.
So that maybe there's some confusion about how the marker works. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
For recall in a multi-dog household, do you need a distinct word for each dog?
What do you think, Marnie?
That's a great question.
Since you have a multi-dog household.
Yeah, I don't know if two or multi. Each of my dogs has their own name. That said, if I call one dog, the dog will come and the other dog will think, oh, there might be food. So I generally get both dogs if I call one dog. I can live with that. I don't have the need to have one dog wait while I call the other one. I do occasionally practice that. But unless you have a need to have one dog come to you at a time, which you might in a resource guarding situation, I think having all the dogs come is fine.
It's funny, my recall word is, hey, guys.
Yeah. So you just cut to the chase, Deborah. It's like
Yeah.
all dogs. Yeah.
Okay, we've got a lot of resources in here that people are sharing. Oh, thanks a lot from Sweden. Okay, I'm hoping that most of these are resources or thank yous, because it says 27 new messages. Okay, here's I have a female beagle mix, a pit mix, which is a submissive male, and a cat. When I'm on the bed and the cat jumps on the bed, or when someone comes and sits with me on the bed, taking attention away from the female, she lunges and snaps at the cat or jumps on top of the person to get between them and me. The pit mix is usually not involved at all. However, he might just have some straight leash aggression because he has only demonstrated aggression toward people when he's on a leash. So that's another issue, but.
So the bed, it's really not unlike sitting on the couch with your dog and doing pass-bys first at a good distance and laterally, not walking straight to the bed. So maybe outside the bedroom, walk by, toss treats while the dog is on the bed with the person, right? And then work up to gradually be able to move closer. It's really the same thing, I think. Or, the person entering would do, instead of entering, might do find it out in the hallway.
Yeah.
When they appear. And then with the cat, you'd have to do the same thing where you have the cat with you.
Yeah. The pouncing on the cat sounds a little bit like it might be redirection as well. Just from the sound of the question, a little bit different. Because it sounded, if I heard correctly, and it's entirely possible that I didn't, it sounded like someone comes and sits on the bed and the female pounces on the cat.
Oh, I misunderstood. Gotcha.
Or I did. But if that's the case, then I might simply, knowing that might happen, adjust the cat's position or, toss some treats to move the dog away so they don't redirect on the cat.
And a few people said the cat and dog get along fine without them in the mix. But as soon as they're in there, suddenly they don't get along. How to feed two dogs at the same time from the bowl is in here.
Different rooms.
Different rooms.
But
Yeah.
physical barrier between them.
Yeah.
Door or a gate or in a crate, or there's just no reason to.
Yeah, in my house, my dog's eating their crate because that was just a question I never wanted to raise. Yeah.
Sometimes my dog swallows things as soon as I say drop it. What can I do?
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's because the dog knows when you say drop, you're about to come and take it.
Yeah.
It's become a predictor, right? So I might practice something like find it or the counting game as a way of getting something away. It's so that you're not even walking towards the dog, but you're going to have to drop the word, drop it. It's been poisoned, right? Yeah. It's a predictor of bad things. So, I'd look at the counting game.
Her example is, for example, swallowing stuffing from a stuffed animal.
Yeah, and that's I'm guessing that's a learned behavior, that as soon as the toy gets ripped, someone goes running over to take it away, and the dog's like, "Oh no, you don't."
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, finding a way to move the dog away from the thing without pressuring them and going to them should I think eliminate that the dog's feeling that they have to ingest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you ever teach an environmental cue of person entering the room as the cue for the dog to move to a station?
You could.
Absolutely could.
Yeah, that's great strategy.
I've done that with cats. A cat walks into the room and the dog goes to another specific spot.
Yeah.
It takes a good bit of time, but you can do it for sure.
Good thinking.
I think, okay, here we go. Well, that's from a trainer. People are clarifying things. She does love my husband if I'm not home or when he first gets home. So that answers that question a bit.
Yeah.
Right. So it is a guarding situation then.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's a much better problem actually
Yes.
than being, upset about the husband in general. So
Yeah.
that's good news.
And find it, the dog would have a stolen object and you would toss treats, right? Not toss the shoe, toss the treat.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yes. You toss the treats.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
Wouldn't you set up find it by letting the dog have a resource first, like the shoe?
I getcha. So it was, can you give them the shoe so you can practice the find it? And
Oh yeah, I didn't get that either.
Yeah.
we misunderstood.
Yeah. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Yes, that makes a whole lot more sense than what we were thinking.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then one of the things I can do then is by moving them away with find it and let them go back and move it away and let them go back. That shoe kind of loses its value pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they'll stop going back. Like, oh, well, okay, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Letting them go back is a huge part of it because we don't want find it to be perceived as a trick. That's the thing.
Oh, it's so easy to do that by accident.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, here's a general question. She starts by warning us. Training to stop barking or something similar, and I reward the barker for stopping barking. The non-barker also wants a reward. Treat them both?
I would.
I would too.
Yeah. I don't see any reason not to. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
And someone else asked if you have any idea what the psychology behind guarding a stolen thing is. And stolen was in all caps.
Oh, I think it's a learned thing where they know that when they grab something, people pursue them and try to take it away.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the way we react to it. I think if they stole it and no one was there, well, they probably wouldn't. It would be a non-issue, right?
It'd be no different from anything they're allowed to have. Yeah.
A lot of times a dog will steal something and then they'll stop and they'll look at you.
Yeah.
And if you don't react, it's kind of like, hey man, I got this thing. So sometimes it's even an attention thing.
Yeah.
So not buying into that can often really help.
Yeah.
Okay. I will not swear to it, but I think we've gotten through all the questions. So thank you both very much. Thanks everyone else. And I'm sure we'll have Sarah and Marnie back. And
Thanks for all the great questions.
Yeah. Thanks.
also, you guys have a class coming up.
We do.
Yeah, there'll be a new one in August if you care to join us for that. And that's online. So it doesn't matter where you are.
Right. You can even be in Sweden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.